Does Washington need a tight end? Well, maybe they want Ben Sinnott out of Kansas State. Let's go. Greetings and salutations, and welcome to Ref the Districts. It's Player Focus Day as we are mere hours away from the draft. I mean, it's 48 plus hours, but hey, who's counting? We're just so eagerly awaiting Thursday. Now, the player we're going to be talking about today is actually a Friday type of player, maybe even slips into Saturday, maybe not. We're going to find out as we talk about Ben Sinnott, a tight end target for Washington. Yes, that's right. This isn't about who Washington's going to take at 2. Adam Peters is going to do his work there, but we're expecting him to do a lot of cooking come Friday for the Washington Commanders. And you'll have to let us know, who do you think is going to be that pick? Make sure you hit us up in the comment section, both about Ben Sinnott and who you're looking at for the day 2. We stream live every Wednesday, but we're also going to be streaming live for day 1 of the draft, at least the first 10 picks. We're giving away nearly $600 worth of Washington Commander merchandise, including a Sean Taylor jersey. So you're going to want to be sure to tune in for that as the Washington Commanders select a player with the 2nd overall pick. Unless they don't. Who knows what's going to happen? They could trade back, as a lot of the noise is happening. It is silly season. It is the moments up leading to the draft. But I tell you what, Stoner, this player we got right now, not a whole lot of silly to him. In fact, a lot of good.
Yeah, I don't know, Nathan. I have a real kind of love-hate relationship with tight ends. You kind of know this, and we've been back and forth on certain tight ends here in Washington or other teams' tight ends. I mean, really, how many sort of great tight ends are there in this league? 4, 5, maybe? There really isn't that many. I mean, we kind of overvalue tight ends a little bit. For me personally, I would put tight ends just above punters and kickers in terms of importance on this team, on any team. Look, they're still valuable. Let's not get crazy, right? But when you're doing a pecking order of most important positions on a football team, tight end for me is down pretty low. But I was a big Logan Thomas guy, right? I thought after he had his 72-catch season, I think we had a bet there in the preseason that he was going to get to 80. I thought he was going to get to 80, or maybe it was even 90. And I was
pretty bullish on him.
Yeah, I was a little foolish going for that. But look, tight ends obviously have a role, but you don't need to go find the next Travis Kelce to have a successful offensive system. And so Washington doesn't, with Zach Ertz, with John Bates, and Cole Turner as your top 3 in your depth chart, you don't need to go get some stud Brock Bowers in the first round. You just need to go get somebody who is going to help in that room, because Zach Ertz is not going to be here forever. John Bates is what he is, and Cole Turner hasn't lived up to his promise. Even though,
and Armani Rogers, don't forget about him. I'm sure we've already got a comment with Armani Rogers, and
hey, look,
he's coming back from injury.
I'm the head of the Armani Rogers fan club right here. I saw him in preseason that one year, and I said this guy could be something. But unfortunately, injuries have kind of slowed his progress. But they don't need kind of somebody to just step in and be a stud. They need depth, and somebody like Sinnott is the type of guy that Washington needs. And by the way, I'm like you with a whole bunch of other names. I can't get this guy's name right. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Sinnott. I don't know how.
I'm going to keep going with Sinnott, but maybe that's the DC bias, right? It's just, hey, he'll be a Sinnott with some Sinnotts and go from there. Before we get to Ben Sinnott, we're going to have a pick at 2. Not discussing it here, but odds are it might be Jaden Daniels. It could be Drake May. JJ McCarthy coming up the rear there, as betting odds are starting to shift closer to JJ McCarthy. You can check it all out at Bet Online. In fact, use the code BELIEVE to get yourself a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Maybe betting on the draft isn't what you like, but we have NHL playoffs, we have NBA playoffs, In fact, we have all of your summer sports covered. Golf and the like, MMA, you've got it right at your fingertips with Bet Online. Use their mobile app and have all of your sports wagering information right there for you. Bet Online, where the game starts. Let's move into our player focus, which is Ben Sinnott. As I will pronounce his name for the duration of this. And if we get that wrong, please let us know in the comment section as well here. This is a player who I didn't want to like, which is weird to say going in, because I don't think, like you mentioned, tight end is really a need for Washington this year. Now, the argument would be sometimes it takes a tight end a year or two to kind of develop into the league. And so you have a buffer with Zach Ertz to allow this rookie to develop. But if that's the case, that doesn't fit our mold for what we want in the second round, as we discussed on our flagship program when we stream live on Wednesday at 7:30 Eastern, was a second round pick, which is what we're looking at here. 36 or 40. Washington holds either right now. We're looking for an everyday starter or a building block. And I don't know that Ben does a job fitting that role, but he is pretty versatile, and he's, athletic, and there's a lot to like about him that I found when I was going through. Maybe not as athletically gifted as Jatavian Sanders out of Texas, but there's still a lot, I think, that this will translate to the NFL for the tight end position.
Yeah, I think probably in this draft there's Brock Bowers and then everybody else. There are some good players, but there's not any kind of game changers like they expect Brock Bowers to be. But let me ask you this, Nathan, kind of putting you on the spot, but where would you put the tight end position when you look at all the positions on a team? Kind of where would you put that in order of the importance of having, a great player at that position?
Yeah, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head, and I hate agreeing with you. And one, it doesn't make for good content, and two, it hurts my soul sometimes. I love tight ends. I think that they're fantastic. They're, a good tight end can be a great, security blanket for a rookie QB. But I got in trouble with a lot of Washington fans when I called Logan Thomas decidedly mediocre. And that was even after his big year. And people wanted to argue with me, but he was a middle of the pack tight end. Even his big year, he wasn't a top 5 tight end the way that people were talking about him. And when you look at your run of the mill tight end, you're expecting maybe 35 yards a game, right? 5 catches, 35 yards. A good day is 55 yards and a touchdown, right? And I think, it's similar to fantasy football. When you get a good tight end, it's fantastic for both fantasy and your team. When you have a Travis Kelce, when you have a Kittle, when you have a Jordan Reed, these are difference makers, right? And it's a plus thing for your team. But if you have a John Bates who's just going to run out there and catch the ball after 5 yards and get you a first down, you're happy with that too. You don't need a big difference maker in tight end. And so in the pecking order, I would definitely for offense, I would put them last. Honest to goodness, as much as I love the tight end position, but after the entire offensive line, after the QB, of course, I think your running backs are more important. Not that I would draft a running back before day 3, but they're more important. I just think that the skill level for tight end, your mediocre guys, they're going to be just fine. And there's a bunch of mediocre guys that are out there. There's very few difference makers. And Brock Bowers going in the first, there hasn't been a very successful first round tight end in forever. So Washington looking to maybe get one here in day 2, which is where a lot of the more successful ones have been found. And that's something. I will say this about Ben here, as I've shifted away from his last name, so I don't get yelled at. But I will say this about Ben. Normally, I like tight ends from Tight End University, the Iowa Hawkeyes. Now, he's not a Hawkeye, but he does hail from Iowa, so it's kind of there. That's kind of there, but there is a lot to like from him athletically. the way he can move in space. He's a willing blocker, not necessarily the best blocker from the reports that I'm reading and the videos that I've seen. He can be prone to missing on a tight end. He's kind of an interesting position, Stoner, also, as he's been used more as an H-back as well as a tight end. So kind of think back to those Chris Cooley days where we got to see him line up. We see a lot of this actually with Washington. Not that that matters now that we've got Cliff Kingsbury about, lining up almost in that halfback position. What do you make of that versatility from Ben?
Yeah, that's a real strong quality to have in the NFLs. You're going to see it even more this year, I think, Nathan. The trend is starting to go away from these wide open offenses to where coaches are really starting to lean more back on that running game and the importance of having fullbacks and the importance of having H-backs and, bigger guys who can just do what's necessary to get you those few yards that you need instead of having a Jalen Hurts, doing the tush push and some of these teams that are just trying everything, guys getting hurt. So you need guys like this. This guy isn't going to be a 10 to 12 year NFL player. He's going to play a long time because he has a lot of those skills. Is that something that really Washington needs to focus on in this draft? Like we said, you got Zach Ertz coming in and he's going to get the majority of playing time, assuming that he's healthy. And then you've got two other veterans with Bates and Turner and maybe Rodgers if he can be healthy. So there's a lot to like about Ben. Let's call him Little Ben because he's probably smaller than Ben Roethlisberger.
I do believe he is. I think he's listed at 6'4".
Yeah.
Yeah, 245. So he's a hairpin shorter than Big Ben.
So we're gonna call him Little Ben if he gets here, and we're gonna give him that nickname. But there is a place for him. I like a lot of what he does. I just don't think that it's something that Washington needs to spend draft capital on at this time. But if he does, I think he can immediately make a difference. I loved last year when Alex Armah was playing kind of what he does well, what Little Ben does well, which is be a fullback, be a guy who can come out of the backfield and catch some passes, make a difference at the line of scrimmage, not necessarily 10 yards downfield. So I like a lot about him, but I just don't think that Washington should use draft capital on him.
I certainly wouldn't spend 36 or 40 on him. I think it'd even be a stretch to take the more athletic Jatavian Sanders at that spot. Sure. And then there's such a large gap between that and the third round that I don't know that either of those survive to the third round for Washington. And so then you're kind of looking at some other players. Eric All is an Iowa tight end that is in this draft. He has health issues that are concerned, probably, why he ends up as a day 3 pick. And I do think that this is something Washington could skip Friday on. I like Ben. I like Jatavian Sanders. I think that those could be some good players, but like you said, Stoner, tight end, not a huge position of need, not with how that room is lined up right now. Next year, and maybe that's why they do spend something on it this year, because next year you probably don't re-sign John Bates. You have Zach Ertz on a 1-year deal already. Is he going to come back? He's already, he's almost our age. So, I mean, it might be something you have to invest in. So I can understand if they take a tight end early. My preference, though, is load up where other positions are. And I think that you'll find some reasonable tight ends available to you in the draft next year or in free agency.
Yeah. And we tend to forget, though, that Washington does have 3 third-round picks. That's still day 2. That's still Friday. That's 5 picks on day Friday, unless they use some of that capital to move back into the first round to get a tackle or an edge or something like that. But so those 3 that they have in the third round are going to be super valuable. And that could be maybe that third one, which is what, 102-ish?
100 is right on the dot is 100. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that's where you might see Little Ben's name sort of being thrown around as a possibility for Washington. Is right.
That would kind of fit what we talked about, right? Then it's more of a depth piece and a situational starter. And I think that's where he would fit in. So that third round, if he survives, that's where we might be able to see him taken. But who knows what's going to happen come Thursday and Friday, how the draft is going to pan out. Maybe they don't have 5 picks in day 2. And maybe they have a little less because they moved up on Thursday to take a guy. And let us know. Are we sleeping on Ben Sinnott? Is this a player that you really want? Don't sleep on these players and these tight ends that are available. Washington might be able to use them. In fact, you might be able to use some energy to get you through the long Thursday and long Friday that the draft will be holding. And if you're joining us, you're going to want to use Don't Sleep Energy. And you can save 10% off on their website right now by using the code DISTRICT. That'll give you 10% off your entire order, supporting a DMV company, good people, and supporting us as well in the process. Don't Sleep Energy makes you great. Let us know what you think about Ben Sinnott here in the comment section. If you're watching this on YouTube, if you're listening to the audio version of this podcast, please leave us a rating and review as it helps other people find us. And you don't want them to sleep on us either. I'm Nathan Perry. That's the Stoner here on the Believe Network. We're Ref the District, brought to you by Bet Online and Don't Sleep Energy. And until next time,
a tight end, we're going to call him Little Ben after a quarterback.
Be a fan.